Her parents call me a downgrade from her ex, didn't invite me to her sister's wedding. I said, understood, and packed my bags while she was gone. When she came home, I'd vanished, along with the company she thought she owned and $15 million she never knew I had. My name is Jordan Kemper. I'm 41 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I work as an AI engineer, freelance mostly, pulling in about $500,000 a year building predictive systems for Fortune 500 companies. Not bad for a kid who grew up in a trailer park in Oklahoma. My wife Stacy is 40, works in her father's manufacturing company, Porter Industrial Solutions, and we have a 7-year-old son named Levi. Smart kid, looks just like his mother, which I used to think was a blessing. We had a son, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. The conversation happened on a Tuesday morning in late September. I was pouring coffee when Stacy walked in the kitchen, phone in hand, that look on her face. The one that says she's already made a decision and is just informing me about it. I'd seen it before when she picked out new furniture, when she enrolled Levi in private school, when she planned vacations. Always the same expression. Jordan, we need to talk about Ashley's wedding next month, she said, setting her phone face down on the counter. Ashley's her younger sister, 28, marrying some finance guy from her father's country club. I set the mug down carefully. Sure. What time should we leave? I can clear my Friday schedule if we need to drive up Thursday night. She didn't meet my eyes. Instead, she busied herself with straightening the dish towel hanging from the oven handle. Actually, I think it's better if I go alone this time. The kitchen went quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I waited. Silence is a useful tool in my line of work. Let people fill it themselves, and they'll tell you more than they intended. My parents, she continued, still not looking at me, fidgeting with her phone. They have certain expectations. Blake is going to be there. He's CFO of my dad's company now, you know. Been with Porter Industrial for 3 years. And Dad's been talking about how things could have been different if I'd made other choices back then. If you'd married Blake Manning instead of me. I finished for her. That's not exactly what I said, but it's what you meant. Stacy's jaw tightened. She finally looked at me, and there was something defensive in her eyes. They think you're a downgrade, Jordan. From Blake. I know it's not fair, and I know it sounds terrible, but I don't want to make them uncomfortable at Ashley's big day. It's her wedding. Can't we just avoid the drama? There it was. Downgrade. Like I was a used car with high mileage and a questionable history. I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip, set it down carefully on the granite countertop. The sound echoed in the silence. Understood. She blinked, clearly surprised. That's it. You're not going to argue with me. Would arguing change anything? Would it make your parents suddenly respect me? Would it make you stand up for your husband? I guess not. I nodded once, keeping my voice level. Then we're clear. You'll go to the wedding. I'll stay home with Levi. Relief washed over her face. And something else I couldn't quite place. Guilt, maybe. Or satisfaction that I was being so reasonable. Thank you for understanding. I knew you'd be mature about this. We can do something nice together when I get back. Maybe take Levi to that science museum he's been asking about. Mature. Reasonable. Understanding. All the words people use when they expect you to accept less than you deserve. She kissed my cheek. Quick, obligatory, the kind of kiss you give a relative you don't particularly like, and headed upstairs to get ready for work. I stood in the kitchen, listening to her footsteps, the sound of running water, the hum of her hairdryer through the ceiling. That's when I made my decision. See, here's the thing about being called a downgrade. It clarifies everything. For 11 years, I told myself I was building something with this woman. A partnership, a family, a future. But partnerships don't rank their partners. Families don't exclude people to avoid discomfort. And futures built on that kind of foundation, they're not worth having. I walked into my office, locked the door, and pulled out my laptop. I had exactly 28 days until the wedding. 28 days to prepare, to ensure that when I left completely. No loose ends. No coming back. No possibility of reconciliation. I opened a new document and started typing. Exit protocol, Jordan Kemper. The cursor blinked on the screen, waiting. I began to plan. The first thing I did was call my attorney. Not the family lawyer Stacy and I use for our wills and property documents. A different one. Daniel Vickers, a guy I'd met at a tech conference 3 years ago, who specialized in asset protection and complex divorces. We'd stayed in touch, grabbed beers occasionally when he was in town. Jordan, he answered on the second ring. What's going on? I need to meet. Today if possible. Can't discuss it over the phone. There was a pause. Daniel was sharp enough to read between the lines. My office at 2. I'll be there. I spent the morning working like normal. Finished debugging a machine learning model for a pharmaceutical client. Responded to emails. Joined a video call about a new project. The routine helped. Kept me grounded while my mind worked through the bigger picture. At 1:30, I told Stacy I needed to run an errand downtown. She barely looked up from her laptop. Okay, I'm picking up Levi from school today. We'll probably stop for ice cream. Sounds good, I said, and meant it. Whatever was coming, Levi didn't deserve to be caught in the middle. Not yet. Daniel's office was in a renovated warehouse building near the waterfront. Modern, glass walls, the kind of place that charged premium rates. He met me in the conference room with coffee and a legal pad. Talk to me, he said, closing the door. I told him everything. The wedding, the downgrade comment, 11 years of marriage. Levi, you want a divorce, he said. Not a question. I want to be ready. I want to know my options. And I want to protect myself. Daniel nodded slowly, making notes. Smart. First thing, do you have any evidence of infidelity? Not yet, but I have suspicions. Then we need evidence. Texas is a no-fault state, but infidelity still matters for property division and custody. You need proof before you file anything. How do I get that? He looked up from his notes. How tech-savvy are you? I almost laughed. Very. Good. Here's what you do. He outlined a plan. Security cameras in the house. Legal as long as they weren't in bathrooms or bedrooms. Software to monitor shared devices. Financial audits of joint accounts. Paper trails. Documentation. I can install cameras this weekend, I said. Stacy's taking Levi to her parents' place Saturday. I'll have the house to myself. Perfect. But Jordan, Daniel leaned forward. Once you start this, there's no going back. You need to be certain. I thought about Stacy's face that morning. The relief when I'd agreed not to come to the wedding. The way she kissed my cheek like I was her brother, not her husband. I'm certain. Then let's get to work. I left Daniel's office with a list of tasks and a timeline. For weeks until the wedding. For weeks to gather evidence, secure my assets, and prepare for the exit. That evening, I ordered 3 small security cameras online. Discrete models, motion-activated, cloud storage. They'd arrive by Friday. By Saturday night, they'd be installed and running. Stacy noticed nothing. We ate dinner as a family. Levi talked about his day at school, some science project about volcanoes. Stacy scrolled through wedding photos on her phone, showing me bridesmaid dresses and flower arrangements. Ashley's going with white roses, she said. Classic choice. Beautiful, I replied, and she smiled at me like everything was normal. I helped put Levi to bed, read him 2 chapters from his current favorite book about space exploration. When I came back downstairs, Stacy was on the couch with her phone. I'm heading to bed early, I said. Long day. Okay, I'll be up soon. I went upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and opened my laptop. Started a spreadsheet. Assets, liabilities, accounts, properties, everything we owned together, everything that would need to be divided. The cursor blinked in the spreadsheet cells. I began documenting my life, preparing to dismantle it. Saturday came too fast and too slow at the same time. Stacy left with Levi around 9 in the morning, heading to her parents' place in Austin for the weekend. Some pre-wedding family gathering I wasn't invited to. Naturally. We'll be back Sunday evening, she said, kissing my cheek at the door. Don't work too hard. Drive safe, I replied, watching them pull out of the driveway. The moment their car disappeared around the corner, I went to work. Installing the cameras took less than 2 hours. I positioned them carefully, one in the living room aimed at the front door and couch, one in the kitchen, one in the hallway. All connected to an app on my phone with cloud backup. Legal, documented, necessary. But that wasn't why my hand was shaking. The manila envelope sat on my desk where it had been for 3 days. I'd picked it up from the lab Wednesday afternoon. DNA Diagnostics, a private facility 2 towns over. The kind of place that doesn't ask questions and processes results fast if you pay extra. I'd collected the samples 2 weeks ago. A hair from Levi's brush. Saliva from his juice cup. My own cheek swab. Standard paternity test. The kind of thing a man does when he starts noticing his 7-year-old son doesn't look like him at all. When he remembers his wife's close friendship with Blake Manning 8 years ago, right around the time Levi was conceived. The envelope felt heavy, heavier than paper should feel. I sat at my desk, stared at it for 10 minutes, then finally tore it open. The technical language filled the first page. Genetic markers, allele frequencies, probability calculations. I skipped to the bottom, to the conclusion section printed in bold letters. Probability of paternity, 0%. Conclusion: Jordan Kemper is excluded as the biological father of Levi Kemper. The words blurred. I read them again. Then again. 0%. 7 years. 7 years of bedtime stories, teaching him to ride a bike, helping with homework, coaching his little league team. 7 years of being dad. And none of it was real. Not biologically, anyway. I set the report down carefully, walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it, poured another. My hands were steady now, eerily steady. The anger came later. Not hot rage, cold, calculating fury. The kind that clears your mind instead of clouding it. Stacy had lied for 7 years. Let me raise another man's child. Let me love a boy who wasn't mine, all while knowing the truth. And Blake Manning, the CFO, the golden boy her parents loved. He was Levi's father. Had to be. The timing matched perfectly. I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, started documenting. Dates. Timeline. The business trip Stacy took with her father 8 years ago. Blake had been there. I remembered because Stacy came home acting strange, distant. 2 weeks later, she told me she was pregnant. We'd been trying for a year. I'd been thrilled. Thought it was finally happening. I sat back down at my desk, opened my laptop. The exit protocol document was still open. I added a new section. Custody. Null and void. Paternity fraud documented. Daniel needed to see this. Monday morning, first thing. But first, I needed more evidence. If Stacy had lied about Levi, what else had she lied about? The cameras were live now. When she came home Sunday, every conversation, every phone call, every visitor would be recorded. I sealed the DNA report back in its envelope, locked it in my desk drawer with copies backed up in 3 separate cloud accounts. Then I went back to work like nothing had changed. Because the best strategy is the one your opponent never sees coming. Sunday evening, Stacy and Levi returned around 6. I was in my office when I heard the front door open, the sound of Levi's excited voice telling me about the trampoline park his grandparents took him to. "Hey, buddy," I called out, meeting them in the hallway. I hugged Levi, ruffled his hair. He wasn't mine biologically, but that didn't change 7 years of love. That wasn't his fault. Stacy smiled, tired from the drive. "Good weekend." "Productive," I said. "Got a lot of work done." "How was Austin?" "Exhausting." My mother had 17 opinions about table settings. She set her purse down. "I'm going to take a bath. Can you handle dinner?" "Already ordered pizza. Should be here in 20 minutes. She kissed my cheek and headed upstairs. I fed Levi, got him ready for bed, read him a story. Normal routine. Dad routine. Whatever the DNA said, he deserved stability. After he was asleep, I went back to my office and pulled up the camera app on my phone. Scrolled through the footage from the weekend. Most of it was nothing. Empty rooms, me walking past cameras, installing them. The cameras were live now. Any day this week, when Stacy was home alone, I'd see what happened when she thought no one was watching. The week crawled by. I worked, took calls, played with Levi, acted normal. Stacy talked about the wedding plans, showed me more photos Ashley sent. Blake would be at the rehearsal dinner Friday night. The wedding Saturday. She'd be gone 4 days total. "You're sure you're okay with this?" she asked Wednesday night over dinner. I said I understood, didn't I? "I know, but..." "Stacy, it's fine. Go to the wedding. Spend time with your family. Levi and I will be good." She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. "Thank you for being so supportive. I know this isn't easy." I squeezed back, smiled. That's what partners do. The lie came easily now. Thursday afternoon, while Stacy was at work, I checked the camera footage again. Nothing unusual. But then Friday, the day before she left, something changed. I was at a coffee shop, laptop open, reviewing code for a client. My phone buzzed with a motion alert from the kitchen camera. Stacy was home. She'd left work early to pack. I watched her move through the frame, opening cabinets, making tea. Then her phone rang. She answered, but I couldn't hear the conversation through the camera. She smiled, though, laughed, walked toward the living room. I switched to that camera feed. She was pacing, phone pressed to her ear, animated. Then she said something that made my blood run cold, even though I couldn't hear it. She glanced toward the hallway, toward where my office was, like checking if I was home. Then she stepped closer to the camera, near the window. I know, she said, voice barely audible but clear enough. Just 4 more weeks. After the wedding, when Jordan's. She stopped mid-sentence, looked at her phone, then ended the call abruptly. I rewound the footage, watched it again, tried to read her lips. After the wedding, when Jordan's what? Gone. Out of the picture. I saved the clip, backed it up, sent it to Daniel's secure email with the subject line, "Evidence urgent." Then I closed my laptop and drove home. That evening, Stacy was cheerful, excited about the wedding. She showed me her packed suitcase, the dress she'd bought, the gift she'd wrapped for Ashley. "This is going to be such a beautiful weekend," she said. I smiled. "I'm sure it will be." The day of the wedding arrived with clear skies and perfect October weather. Stacy left Friday afternoon, kissed Levi and me goodbye, promised to call when she got to Austin. I waved from the driveway, watching her car disappear down the street. "Dad, can we get pizza tonight?" Levi asked, tugging my hand. "Absolutely, buddy. Extra pepperoni." We spent Friday evening like normal. Pizza, video games, a movie. I tucked him into bed at 9, read him his favorite space book, turned off the light. "Love you, Dad," he said sleepily. "Love you too, kiddo." I meant it. DNA didn't change 7 years of being his father. But DNA did change everything else. Saturday morning, while Levi was still asleep, I began the execution phase. Every item had been planned, every step documented in my exit protocol. I'd been preparing for 4 weeks. Now it was time. First, the financial moves. I logged into our joint checking account, transferred my half to a new account Stacy didn't know about. The savings account, same process. Investment accounts, already separated by prenup, stayed untouched. Our shared business account for the green tech startup I'd been funding, transferred completely. It was my money anyway, always had been. Then the digital purge. I wiped our shared laptop, factory reset, changed passwords on every streaming service, email account, cloud storage. Removed my phone from the family plan. Canceled my credit cards that had her as authorized user. The house was trickier. We rented, lease in both names. I called the landlord, explained I'd be leaving, offered to pay my half through the end of the lease term. He agreed. I had him email the documentation. Done. By noon, I'd erased myself from every shared system we had. Next came the physical items. I'd already shipped 2 boxes of important documents to a P.O. box in Vancouver 3 weeks ago. Birth certificate, passport, financial records, the DNA report originals. Everything else, I packed into my truck. Clothes, laptop, a few personal items. Not much. I'd learned to travel light. The startup, our joint venture, that Stacy's brother thought he co-owned, that was the beautiful part. I'd structured it carefully 3 years ago when we founded it. Stacy and her brother were listed as partners, but the operating agreement had a clause I'd written in. In the event of irreconcilable differences, the primary capital investor could dissolve the partnership and reassign assets. I was the primary capital investor. I put in $400,000. They put in nothing but ideas. Friday night, while Stacy was at the rehearsal dinner, I'd executed the dissolution, filed the paperwork with the state, transferred all intellectual property to a nonprofit trust I'd established, Green Future Technologies, registered in British Columbia. The trust would continue the work, but Stacy and her brother would get nothing. They'd find out Monday when their access to company accounts was revoked. At 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon, I called Daniel Vickers. "It's done," I said. "Everything's executed. I'm leaving in an hour." The DNA evidence. Courier will deliver copies to Stacy and her parents Monday morning, along with the dissolution papers and a formal notice that I'm filing for divorce based on paternity fraud and adultery. "Where are you going?" "Better if you don't know yet. I'll contact you once I'm settled. You have power of attorney for the legal proceedings." "Jordan," he paused. "You're sure about this?" I looked around the house I'd lived in for 6 years. The couch where I'd read bedtime stories. The kitchen where we'd eaten family dinners. The walls that held photos of a life that turned out to be a lie. I'm sure. At 3 o'clock, I loaded the last box into my truck. Left my house keys on the kitchen counter. Left my wedding ring beside them. Left a single envelope addressed to Stacy, containing copies of the DNA report and one sentence written in my handwriting. You never had to explain. I understood. Then I picked up Levi from his friend's house where he'd been playing. Where are we going, Dad? He asked as I buckled him into his car seat. On an adventure, buddy. We're going to see Grandma Sullivan in Oklahoma for a few days. My mother, who I called last week and explained everything. She'd agreed to take Levi for 2 weeks while I got settled in Canada. What about Mom? Mom will meet us there. I lied. One of the few times I'd lied to him, and it hurt. But necessary. We drove out of Houston as the sun started setting. My phone buzzed constantly. Stacy, calling from the wedding reception. I'd blocked her number an hour ago. She was probably confused, maybe annoyed. By tomorrow morning, when her parents returned home to find her sitting there alone, trying to reach me, trying to understand what happened, then she'd be more than confused. She'd be devastated. And I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I learned what happened through Daniel, who heard it from Stacy's attorney 3 days later. Saturday night, the wedding went perfectly. Stacy posted photos on social media. Her and Ashley, the bridesmaids, the reception. Blake Manning was in several shots, standing close to Stacy, laughing at something she said. Her parents looked proud, happy, everything picture perfect. Sunday morning, she flew home. Texted me from the airport. Called twice. No answer. She got home around noon. That's when she found the keys, the ring, the envelope. According to Daniel's account, she'd called her parents immediately, hysterical. They'd rushed over, found her sitting on the couch, reading the DNA report over and over, trying to call me, getting nothing but voicemail. Where's Levi? Her father had demanded. Daniel told me. I don't know. Jordan took him somewhere. He's not answering. That's when they'd started to understand the scope. Raymond Porter, Stacy's father, had tried to log into the company accounts Monday morning. Locked out. Called Stacy's brother. Also locked out. They'd received the dissolution papers via courier at 10 a.m. Porter Industrial Solutions, Green Initiative Partnership, that they'd been bragging about to investors for 3 years. Gone. Dissolved. Assets transferred to a Canadian trust they had no access to, no control over, no claim against. The money in the joint accounts? Gone. My half. Completely legal to take. The startup they thought they owned 40% of? Never theirs. They'd owned equity in a shell structure that I'd legally dismantled. Stacy's brother had apparently put his fist through a wall when he realized what happened. But the real devastation came Tuesday morning when the second courier arrived. More DNA evidence, more documentation, and a formal notice. I was filing for divorce in Texas, citing paternity fraud and adultery, demanding full return of all funds I'd invested in raising a child who wasn't mine. 7 years of expenses, estimated at $400,000. Texas law was murky on paternity fraud, but my case was solid. I had evidence, timeline, documentation, DNA proof, and Blake Manning's name was about to be dragged into it very publicly. Her attorney called me. Daniel said during our Wednesday morning call. I was in Vancouver by then, setting up a temporary apartment. She wants to negotiate. No negotiations. Jordan, she's offering to split everything 50-50. Keep the house. Joint custody of Levi. He's not my son. Legally, I have no custody to negotiate. Biologically, Blake Manning is his father. She can negotiate with him. She's claiming you knew, that you accepted Levi as yours regardless of paternity. I have dated evidence proving I only discovered the truth 4 weeks ago. She has no case. Daniel was quiet for a moment. She's also claiming you sabotage her family's business out of spite. I dissolved a company I solely funded. The operating agreement gave me that right. Her family contributed zero capital. They have no legal standing. They're talking about suing for emotional distress. Let them try. Discovery will be fun. We'll subpoena Blake Manning, put him on the stand, ask him under oath about his relationship with Stacy 8 years ago. More silence. Then Daniel said quietly, You've thought of everything. I had 4 weeks and excellent motivation. What about Levi? That question hurt. He's with my mother in Oklahoma. I call him every night. He thinks I'm on a business trip, and his mom is handling some family emergency. In 2 weeks, when I'm settled, I'll explain age-appropriately that mom and dad are separating. He can visit me whenever he wants. I won't abandon him just because we don't share DNA. That's decent of you. He's 7. None of this is his fault. Friday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Jordan. Stacy's voice, raw from crying. Please, we need to talk. We have nothing to discuss. You can't just leave. You can't just destroy everything. I didn't destroy anything, Stacy. I removed myself from a fraudulent situation. There's a difference. Levi is your son. You raised him. DNA doesn't change that. DNA changes everything legally. You lied for 7 years. Let me pay for, provide for, love a child while knowing he wasn't mine. That's fraud. I never meant. Yes, you did. You knew exactly what you were doing. My voice stayed calm, cold. You call me a downgrade. You excluded me from your family. You made it very clear I didn't belong. So I left. Just like you wanted. That's not. I didn't mean it that way. Understood, I said and hung up. I blocked the number. That night, I stood on the balcony of my Vancouver apartment, looking out over the city lights, and felt nothing but relief. The old life was gone. The new one was just beginning. 3 weeks after I left Houston, Daniel Vickers called with news I'd been expecting. They found out about the money, he said. I was sitting in a coffee shop in downtown Vancouver, laptop open, working on a contract for a tech startup that needed AI infrastructure. Which money? All of it. Stacy's attorney filed an emergency motion demanding full financial disclosure. They're claiming you had assets. I didn't hide anything. I just never told her about it. $15 million is a lot to not mention, Jordan. I smiled. Premarital assets. I sold my first AI company 2 years before I met Stacy. The prenup specifically excludes premarital wealth. She signed it. She's saying she didn't know the amount. That you misrepresented your financial situation. I lived modestly. Worked hard. Never flaunted money. That's not misrepresentation. That's discretion. I took a sip of coffee. What else? Raymond Porter is threatening to sue you for sabotaging his business relationships. He's claiming the green tech startup was a joint venture you illegally dissolved. Let him sue. The operating agreement gave me sole dissolution rights as primary capital investor. His daughter and son contributed $0. They have no legal standing. They're also bankrupt, Daniel added. Porter Industrial Solutions filed for Chapter 11 yesterday. The company's been hemorrhaging money for 2 years. They were counting on your green tech partnership to attract investors and stay afloat. I set my coffee down. So the entire family was using me as a financial life raft. Essentially, yes. Without your money, your reputation, your business connections, they've got nothing. The banks are calling in loans. Creditors are circling. And Blake Manning, still CFO, but his position is shaky. The board is asking questions about the company's financial management. They're also aware of the paternity situation. Word got out somehow. His reputation is taking hits. Good. What about Stacy? She wants to negotiate. She's willing to admit to the affair. Admit Blake is Levi's father, in exchange for you dropping the financial claims and agreeing to joint custody. No, Jordan, she's desperate. Her entire family is collapsing financially. She has no job prospects. She only worked at her father's company, which is now bankrupt. She has no support system. Blake Manning won't acknowledge Levi publicly because it would destroy what's left of his career. Still no. Daniel sighed. What do you want? Divorce finalized. 0 custody for me, since Levi isn't biologically mine, but visitation rights if he wants to see me. Full return of my investments in the family and the startup. And a public acknowledgement of the paternity fraud in the divorce decree. That last part is brutal. She lied for 7 years. She doesn't get to hide it now. Agreed. I'll draft the counteroffer. He paused. For what it's worth, you played this perfectly. Legally, financially, strategically, they have no leverage. I had 4 weeks to plan and excellent motivation. After we hung up, I opened my banking app, looked at the accounts Stacy never knew existed. The $15 million from my first company sale, invested wisely over the years, now worth close to $22 million. The rental properties I owned in 3 states under an LLC. The investment portfolio generating passive income of $40,000 a month. I'd lived on my freelance AI work, $500,000 a year, while this fortune grew in silence. Stacy thought we were comfortable middle class. She had no idea she'd been living with a multimillionaire who chose to drive a used truck and shop at Costco. The irony was beautiful. Her parents call me a downgrade from Blake Manning. Blake, who made $200,000 a year as CFO and lived paycheck to paycheck with credit card debt. Meanwhile, I could have bought Porter Industrial Solutions outright with cash and still had money left over. But I'd never wanted to be loved for money. I wanted to be loved for me. Stacy failed that test spectacularly. My phone buzzed. Text from my mother. Levi wants to talk to you. I called immediately. Hey buddy, how's Oklahoma? Good. Grandma took me to the Science Museum. We saw the planetarium show. His voice was bright, happy. When are you coming to visit? Soon. I'm finishing up some work in Canada, then I'll drive down. Dad. His voice got quieter. Mom called Grandma. She was crying. Is she okay? My jaw tightened. Your mom is going through a tough time, but she'll be okay. Adults sometimes have problems that are hard to understand. She asked if I wanted to come home. I said I wanted to stay with you. Levi, your mom loves you very much, but you're my dad. You're the one who taught me to ride my bike. You're the one who reads me stories. You're the one who shows up. I close my eyes, fighting the emotion. I'll always show up for you, buddy. Always. We talked for another 10 minutes. After we hung up, I sat in that coffee shop for a long time, staring at nothing. DNA said Levi wasn't mine. The law said I had no obligation to him. But 7 years of being his father said otherwise. I opened my laptop, drafted an email to Daniel. Add to the settlement terms. Trust fund for Levi Kemper, $2 million, accessible at age 25. Funded by me, managed by independent trustee. Non-negotiable. Stacy could rot. Blake could hide. Raymond Porter could go bankrupt. But Levi will be taken care of. Because that's what real fathers do. The podcast dropped on a Wednesday morning in late November, 6 weeks after I left Houston. I was in my Vancouver apartment, working on a project, when Daniel called. Have you seen it? He asked. Seen what? The Modern Betrayal podcast. Episode 47. They covered your story. I pulled up the podcast platform on my laptop, found the episode. Title: The Man Who Disappeared. When Understanding Means Exit. My stomach tightened. How do they get this? Public divorce filings are accessible. Someone must have noticed the paternity fraud claim and thought it was interesting. They interviewed people, pieced together the timeline. He paused. Jordan, they made you sound like a hero. I listened to the episode. The host, a woman named Sarah Mitchell, had a measured, thoughtful voice. She laid out the facts methodically. The wedding exclusion, the downgrade comment, the DNA revelation, the calculated exit, the financial fraud I'd uncovered. This is a story about a man who was told he wasn't good enough, she said, who was excluded, diminished, used financially while being emotionally discarded. And his response wasn't violence, wasn't rage. It was precision. He removed himself completely, legally, leaving no loose ends, no way back. She played a clip, an interview with someone who claimed to be a former colleague of Raymond Porter. The voice was disguised, but the words were clear. Porter and his family were always looking for an angle. When his daughter married Jordan Kemper, suddenly Porter had access to tech connections, AI expertise, investment capital. They used him. Another clip, this one from someone who knew Blake Manning. Blake's always been about image. When his relationship with Stacy produced a child, he panicked. Couldn't acknowledge it publicly, would ruin his career prospects. So they pinned it on the husband. Classic coward move. The episode ended with Sarah's conclusion. Sometimes the strongest response to betrayal isn't confrontation. It's disappearance. Jordan Kemper understood that being uninvited was the clearest invitation to leave. And he left so completely that the people who used him are still trying to find him. The episode had 200,000 downloads in the first day. By Friday, it hit 1 million. The comments section exploded. Men sharing their own stories of being diminished in relationships, financially used, emotionally discarded. Women calling Stacy's behavior disgusting and unforgivable. Debates about paternity fraud laws, prenups, the importance of DNA testing. The phrase, understood and left, became a hashtag on social media. Daniel called again Monday morning. Stacy's attorney wants to settle. Immediately. They're terrified this gets bigger. What are they offering? Everything you asked for. Divorce finalized, financial return, public acknowledgement of fraud. They'll even agree to the trust fund for Levi. They just want you to sign a mutual non-disparagement clause. So I can't talk about what happened. Correct. They're worried about more media coverage. I thought about it. About Levi, who didn't deserve to have his mother's fraud broadcast across the internet forever. About my own privacy, my desire to move on cleanly. Counteroffer. I'll sign the non-disparagement clause if Blake Manning publicly acknowledges paternity and agrees to pay child support. Full amount, backdated to birth. That's $8.4 million he owes Stacy for 9 years of expenses. Daniel laughed. That's brilliant. You're making him pay for his own kid. He created this situation. He can fund it. The settlement came through 2 weeks later. Blake Manning, faced with either public exposure or financial responsibility, chose money. He set up a payment plan, acknowledged paternity privately in sealed court documents, and agreed to ongoing child support. Stacy got nothing from me except a divorce and the truth. Raymond Porter's company dissolved in bankruptcy. Blake Manning resigned as CFO, took a lower position at a smaller firm in Dallas. And I sat in Vancouver, watching it all unfold from 3,000 miles away, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The old life was ashes. The new one was already taking shape. I had freedom, wealth, and clarity. Everything else was just noise. 18 months after I left Houston, I stood on the deck of my house in Whistler, British Columbia, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. The air was clean, cold, perfect. Nothing like the humid Texas heat I'd left behind. My phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Emily Carson. Morning. Coffee at our place or yours? I smiled, typed back. Yours. I'll bring breakfast. Emily, 34 years old, emergency room physician at Vancouver General Hospital, sharp mind, kind heart, no patience for games or lies. We'd met 9 months ago at a tech conference where she was speaking about AI applications in trauma medicine. I'd been consulting on the project. She'd asked intelligent questions. I'd given honest answers. By the end of the conference, we'd exchanged numbers. 3 months later, we were dating seriously. 6 months after that, she moved into my place in Whistler on her days off. We kept her Vancouver apartment for work weeks, but the mountains were becoming home for both of us. She knew everything. About Stacy, about Levi, about the paternity fraud, about why I'd left America. I'd told her on our third date, expecting judgment or at least hesitation. Instead, she'd said, "You did what you had to do. Anyone with integrity would have done the same." That's when I knew she was different. Last month, I'd found out she was pregnant. We'd been careful, but sometimes life has other plans. When she told me, sitting on this same deck with morning coffee, I'd felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pure joy. We're keeping it. I'd asked, knowing her career, her independence, her carefully planned life. Are you kidding? I'm 34 and just found a man who's honest, successful, and doesn't play games. Yes, we're keeping it. Now, at 18 weeks, she was showing. We decided not to find out the gender. Wanted to be surprised. I drove down her Vancouver apartment, picked up fresh pastries from the bakery she loved, let myself in with my key. She was in the kitchen, already dressed in scrubs for her afternoon shift. You're glowing, I said, kissing her. I'm nauseous and exhausted. But thank you. She took the pastries, smiled. Levi called yesterday while you were in meetings. How is he? Good. Wants to come visit next month. He's excited about having a little brother or sister. Levi, 9 years old now, living in Dallas with my mother who'd gotten permanent custody after Stacy proved unable to maintain stable housing or employment. Blake Manning paid child support, but rarely visited. The kid deserved better. I'll fly down and get him, I said. Bring him up here for 2 weeks. He asked if he could call me Emily, or if he should call me something else. What did you say? I told him to call me whatever feels comfortable. That I'm not trying to replace his mother, but I'm happy to be in his life. She sat down at the table, looked at me seriously. Jordan, I need to ask you something. Anything. Do you regret how you handled things? Leaving the way you did? I thought about it. Really thought. No. I gave Stacy 11 years of loyalty, love, and financial support based on lies. When I discovered the truth, I extracted myself cleanly and legally. I protected my assets, exposed the fraud, and ensured Levi would be financially secure regardless of his parentage. I did everything right. But you destroyed her family's business. Her father lost everything. Raymond Porter destroyed his own business through mismanagement and fraud. I just stopped subsidizing it. I sat across from her. Emily, they call me a downgrade. Excluded me from family events. Used my money and reputation while lying about my son's paternity. I don't know the mercy. She nodded slowly. I get it. I just wanted to hear you say it without guilt. No guilt. Just clarity. We ate breakfast together, talked about nursery colors and baby names, normal couple things. Then she left for her shift, and I went back to work. My consulting business was thriving. 3 Fortune 500 clients, 2 Canadian startups, and a government contract for AI ethics review. I was making more money than ever, living in a place I loved, with a woman I respected. Last week, I'd started the process for Canadian permanent residency. Not because I hated America, because I'd found something better. A place where my success was respected, my privacy maintained, and my choices honored. In 2 years, I could apply for citizenship. I'd already decided. When that day came, I'd renounce my American citizenship. Not out of spite, out of completion. The country that let someone call a man a downgrade while committing paternity fraud, that allowed financial exploitation masqueraded as family partnership, that valued image over integrity. I was done with it. Canada had given me freedom, peace, and a fresh start. That evening, I got a call from Daniel Vickers. Jordan, thought you want to know. Stacy's getting remarried. To Blake. No, some guy she met at a support group. Divorced father of 2. Works in insurance. They're moving to San Antonio together. Good for her. Hope it works out. You really don't care? Daniel, she's been gone from my life for 18 months. I'm engaged to an incredible woman, having a baby, building a business I love in a country that respects me. Why would I care what Stacy does? He laughed. Fair point. Just wanted to keep you informed. After we hung up, I sat on the deck watching the sun set behind the mountains, thinking about everything that had led me here. One conversation, one moment of being told I wasn't good enough. That's all it took to start the chain reaction that freed me from a life built on lies. I'd understood exactly what Stacy meant when she called me a downgrade. In an understanding, I'd found my freedom. 2 years and 4 months after I left Houston, I stood in a Vancouver courthouse, Emily beside me, holding our 14-month-old daughter, Sophia. The room was formal, quiet, dignified. The citizenship judge looked at me over her reading glasses. Mr. Kemper, you're seeking to renounce your United States citizenship and become a Canadian citizen. This is a significant, irreversible decision. Are you certain? Completely certain, Your Honor. Can you explain your reasoning? I prepared for this question. Your Honor, I lived in the United States for 41 years. I paid substantial taxes, over $3 million in total across my career. I contributed to the economy, supported local businesses, created jobs through my consulting work. I did everything a good citizen should do. And yet you're leaving? I was told I was a downgrade by the family I married into. Excluded from events because I embarrassed them despite my success and contributions. I discovered my wife had committed paternity fraud, lying about my son's biological father for 7 years. When I extracted myself legally and completely from that situation, I was vilified for it. The system that was supposed to protect me instead questioned my motives. The judge nodded slowly. Go on. Canada welcomed me without judgment. Here, my professional success is respected. My privacy is protected. My choices are honored. I've built a business that employs 12 people and generates significant tax revenue for this country. I've integrated into the community. My daughter will grow up Canadian. I paused. America gave me opportunity. Canada gave me dignity. I choose dignity. Emily squeezed my hand. The judge reviewed my paperwork for what felt like an hour, but was probably 5 minutes. Then she looked up, smiled slightly. Mr. Kemper, it's rare to see someone articulate their reasoning so clearly. Your application is approved. Welcome to Canada. The ceremony was brief. Oath of citizenship, certificate signed, handshakes exchanged. When we walked out of that courthouse, I was no longer American. I was Canadian. Emily hugged me in the parking lot, Sophia babbling happily between us. How do you feel? Free. We drove back to Whistler, to the house I'd bought outright with cash, to the life I'd built from scratch. That evening, Levi called via video chat from Dallas. Dad, did you do it? Are you Canadian now? I am, buddy. Official, as of this morning. That's so cool. Can I get Canadian citizenship too? I laughed. When you're 18, if you want to move up here permanently, we'll make it happen. You'll always have a place with me. Is Sophia there? I want to say hi to my sister. Emily brought Sophia to the screen. Levi made funny faces, and she giggled. Watching them interact, watching this makeshift family weed created from the wreckage of betrayal and fraud, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. Later that night, after Emily and Sophia were asleep, I sat on the deck with a glass of whiskey, looking at the stars over the mountains. My phone buzzed. Email from an unknown address. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was from Stacy. Jordan, I know you probably won't read this, but I needed to try. I heard you became a Canadian citizen today. Congratulations. I know that means you're never coming back, and I understand why. I won't apologize again. I've said sorry 1,000 times, and it never feels adequate. But I want you to know that Levi talks about you constantly. You're still his dad in every way that matters. Thank you for the trust fund, for the support, for not abandoning him, even after you learned the truth. You're a better person than I ever deserved. I hope you're happy. I hope Canada gives you everything you couldn't find here. And I hope someday, somehow, the universe gives you back all the good you put into the world. You earned it. I read it twice, then deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of closure. Stacy was part of a life I'd left behind. A life built on lies, maintained through deception, destroyed by truth. This life, the mountains, the business, Emily, Sophia, the freedom to choose my own path, this was real. I raised my glass to the stars, to the journey that had brought me here, to the single word that had changed everything. Understood. I whispered to the night, and then I went inside to my family, closing the door on the past forever. The downgrade had upgraded himself completely.
Yeah.
They have so many cocktails.
Because where we live, there's nothing.
Ah, really?
Yeah, I haven't even seen anything.
Oh.
No.
They have so many.
I see the news and I'm
Yeah?
like, oh, that's bad. In our city,
Yeah?
there's nothing.
Ah. Mexico City is safe?
Yeah, yeah, to walk. Well,
Mexico City?
maybe depend the zone.
But we're not from Mexico City.
We'll know from
We're from
Mexico
the
City.
north.
North?
North.
Ah, north. Ah.
Close to USA, on the border.
Just right behind.
I don't know if you
California.
know Tijuana.
Tijuana. Tijuana.
Close,
Tijuana.
but
Ah.
in the
Yes.
west.
Like, do you know
West?
Los Angeles or San Diego?
San
Yeah.
Diego.
Behind.
Ah, San Diego.
It's
Ah,
close.
nearby San Diego?
Yeah, like
Ah,
cars in
USA,
cars.
USA and nearby USA?
Yes.
Oh.
You
Wow.
can, like, US, Mexico, you can.
Yes.
Yeah.
We go every time.
Oh, really?
Mm,
Wow,
just
so
to
nice.
shopping